Hello everybody, while this video gets started, I wanted to tell you guys about the $500 in Battle.net credit that we're giving away to help spread the love on some new Gaming Curios channels. We're making channels for Fortnite and VR to give you guys the very best moments those games have to offer. And to enter the giveaway, all you gotta do is click that link down below and subscribe to those new channels. You could win $500 in Battle.net credit, and it's super easy and fast. Anyway, enjoy the video. Hello everybody, Disciple here with Overwatch Curios. Now with D.Va's rework still being somewhat recent, she seems to have fallen out of the meta to a small extent. Now that's not to say that she's bad by any means, however she used to be a pretty much mandatory pick due to how extremely powerful her defense matrix was. Now since the adjustment to the uptime of the ability, players have been shying away from playing her. However, there were some other changes made to D.Va in the same patch that a lot of people still seem to be overlooking by quite a bit. While she's not the uncontested queen of the front lines anymore, soaking absurd amounts of damage with a never-ending defense matrix, the changes made have instead shifted her to a much more aggressive role. She can put out a lot of damage while still having access to matrix to shut down important abilities when needed. D.Va gameplay now is a mix of mobile harassment and burst damage while physically mitigating damage for her team, either with defense matrix or her own mech. In today's video, we're going to give you a rundown of the new D.Va and how to play her more effectively in the start of our new Grandmaster Tips series. Now one of the most important changes made to D.Va in that patch was the decision to allow her to fire while using her boosters. D.Va's always been a mobile tank with the ability to harass enemy supports or snipers fairly effectively, but this change allows her to pump out more damage in the time it takes her to close the gap, and is a big part of why her damage dealt has skyrocketed as of late. Not only can you use D.Va's primary firewall boosting, but you can also shoot off your rockets too. In this way, D.Va's able to front load a ton of damage to targets as she closes the gap. Squishy targets might even flat out die from this pressure before you reach them, and it sets up a great burst combo that you can utilize as well. Once you've selected your target, boost towards them. You want to activate your rockets and then begin firing your guns as you close the gap. Once you reach your target, you'll do even more damage to the target simply by colliding with them. To round it all out, cancel your boost with your melee attack once you've reached them, and you'll do a surprising amount of damage. This method of engaging on your target front loads a lot of damage behind the rockets, and then provides a smaller secondary boost to eliminate them by boosting into them and following it up with a melee. This can be a great way for D.Va to secure opening picks, and she has then the option to use defense matrix if she needs to survive, while waiting for the cooldown on her boosters to either move to a new target, reposition to a health pack, or go group up with the team again to receive support from allies and push on to the point. Now this might seem a little obvious to you guys, and probably most of you know that she's become a little bit more aggressively tuned since the update, but a lot of people still aren't making full use of that. They're still playing D.Va just like she used to be. They're still trying to camp their team, trying to absorb everything with defense matrix, and then feeling pretty useless once the defense matrix is up. And while I might not be a Grandmaster player myself, you guys don't have to take my word for it. Instead, we work with a bunch of Grandmaster and top 500 players like Biblestudy, Roflgator, and Convertible, who help us make these videos so they can provide us the tips that actual Grandmaster players are using in their games. Now this next tip isn't a new tactic or related to the patch changes. It's something that a lot of players just aren't really aware of. After activating self-destruct, D.Va can move her exploding mech slightly just by walking into it. This can create crazy 900 IQ plays where a D.Va player places a bomb on a higher ledge. When the team sees the exclamation icon indicating the location of the bomb, they'll assume they're safe because it's out of their line of sight. Meanwhile, D.Va sneakily nudges the exploding mech forward, dropping it off the ledge and securing surprise kills because of it. Now to pull this off, you need to slowly walk into the mech by moving forward for a split second, releasing forward, moving forward for a split second, and repeating that over and over. Just kind of spam W, but make sure you don't run too far. If you hold forward or you move too quickly, you'll end up just passing through the mech and walking off the ledge yourself, which would be a little bit more embarrassing than epic since you'll probably kill yourself. However, strategically ulting like this to confuse enemies can definitely secure some surprise kills on the enemy team, and you're probably going to be pretty safe while pushing it in since no one really wants to be on your line of sight to shoot at you because of, well, your mech. A mistake that a lot of players make when playing D.Va is playing way too aggressively when they don't have their mech. Since Baby D.Va charges a new ultimate and regains mech so quickly, most of the time it's more important to fall back and play safely than it is to run forward holding fire and trying to get back into mech as fast as possible. Fall back to your team and try to find something like a wall or a Reinhardt shield to hide behind, within line of sight of your supports. From the back, focus on spamming your shots on tight angles or into chokes where you know the enemy team is likely to be coming from, and safely get back into your mech without the risk of dying. Dying as Baby D.Va can cost your team a lot of time since you're no good to them outside of your mech, and it's essentially like sitting 2 respawn timers over if you get knocked out of your mech and you can't get a new one before you die. Play your corners tight and don't be afraid to retreat from damage for a second or two if it means you'll be able to get the mech back online before the enemies come into you. There's also a fun little trick to get your mech back instantly if you have just been demeched and you really have to get back to the point to defend against the last push. Now, this only works if you don't have a lot of ult charge and you're still pretty close to the point from your spawn, because what you'll need to do is go back into your spawn, swap off of D.Va, and then swap right back onto D.Va. Once you swap back onto D.Va, you'll have your mech. Now, you won't have any ult charge since it's as if you just started playing her, but you will be able to go right back out into your team with your jump jets and fight alongside them. Now, this doesn't work if you were close to your ult and you need to use it in the next fight, but it's so much better than dying as Baby D.Va, because Baby D.Va is so squishy and actually the most vulnerable character in the entire game because of her lack of mobility. Now, on the opposite side of this topic, there are definitely times when it can be more advantageous for you to just accept defeat and commit suicide. If you're coming off the tail end of a duel that you just won, however you no longer have your mech, it might be wiser to just jump off the map to respawn faster if you're at the end of a team fight and in the stages of grouping back up with your team. Since D.Va's jets not only allow her to close distance quickly, but also have a pretty short cooldown, getting back into your mech faster and using your jets to regroup is sometimes the exact play you need to make. It's actually a pretty popular tactic for top level teams to stagger D.Vas, since Baby D.Va is just so unthreatening, especially once your team has wiped up the fight. D.Va's pretty likely to be the last hero alive because of the death animation of the mech and also the tankiness of the mech, so a lot of times after a team fight has been won, there's just one Baby D.Va remaining, and they'll group up around her and try to keep her alive as long as possible before killing her, so that it delays the enemy respawns and regrouping as long as possible, buying your team some much needed time either on defense or pushing the payload on offense. Keep in mind that you'll lose nothing for committing suicide. You'll deny the enemy team any ultimate charge from damaging you while not losing any of the progress you have towards your next self-destruct as well, since there's really no way you're going to come back in a 1v6 clutch. Now, not only is your mech what makes you so great, but it's also really big, like huge, and that actually has a lot of weight in game when you know how to take advantage of it. Many teams often struggle with pushing the payload to completion at the end of the map. However, due to the size of D.Va's mech, you can physically block players from exiting their spawn door just by standing in front of it. This will be a good time to drain your defense matrix stores, since enemies will be able to deal pretty free damage to you while also remaining safe, but physically blocking the exit can allow your team to progress the cart uncontested. This can even keep an ulting Zenyatta locked in his spawn. It's a pretty common technique for a Zenyatta to pop his ultimate to quickly get out to the payload, to keep it in overtime and try and stall for as long as possible for his team to get up. And it's usually pretty hard to stop since Zenyatta is immune to damage while he's in his ult. You can also use this tactic to block narrow doors like those on Gibraltar, for example. Taking advantage of collision in clever ways will drastically improve your success with D.Va, and it can also help you stagger people at the end of fights that you've already won. If you can trap someone in a narrow hallway as D.Va, you can keep them alive for longer, and as long as you don't allow them to kill any of you or build up too much ult charge, you can get some huge advantages out of it. However, you don't always have to be in your mech to utilize body blocking. The first instinct of most players in the game is to immediately turn and run for cover when they see a self-destruct activated by an enemy player. Top level D.Va players will frequently use their body as Baby D.Va to body block and slow down the retreat of enemies, forcing them to eat the devastating damage of the self-destruct. Now, positioning for this is key, so if it's something you're planning on doing, you'll need to remember to jump as you exit your mech suit. That way you can gain height and close the distance on the enemy you're trying to stall. Since self-destruct has such a short timer, sometimes all it takes is that split second of standing in front of an enemy's line of travel to keep them within range of the explosion by keeping them from getting around the corner. One of the worst things you can do as the new D.Va is to use defense matrix without thinking about why you're using it before your activation. Since it's a more limited resource, it needs to be used with great forethought prior to activation. For example, Reinhardt is capable of charging his ultimate very quickly thanks to the damage of his Fire Strike. D.Va is a pretty perfect counter to this. By tapping Defense Matrix for a split second just to absorb every Fire Strike he throws, you completely shut down his ability to charge Earth Shatter quickly, and you force him to get into a fight melee. Other characters also fire in predictable patterns as well. Hanzo arrows, Pharah rockets, they all travel in pretty predictable times, which you can exploit to deny them damage just with the quick activation and deactivation of your Matrix. And of course, anytime you're playing against a Zarya or Tracer, look for opportunities to absorb their ultimates. Especially at lower levels of play, these will be really predictable because they'll suddenly rush forward with seemingly no reason, giving you an indication that they'll plan to overextend just to use their ultimate ability. Now our last tip is another thing that inexperienced D.Va players struggle with while learning how to play her, but it's really important. Sometimes it's way better not to use Defense Matrix at all. If you're playing with a Zarya and she's just activated her bubble, or maybe even uses it on you, there's really no reason to use your DM, as you'll just be denying her charge. Similarly, if your friendly Genji has Deflect activated, if you Defense Matrix on top of him, you're just denying him a free source of damage since he's already reflecting incoming shots and he won't take damage from them. Instead, focus on using Matrix after his deflect so that he can reposition or get back to safety if needed. And of course, if you're partnered with a Reinhardt, there's rarely a reason to use Defense Matrix if his shield is active and healthy, and you aren't being flanked. Instead, use your Defense Matrix to protect him when his shield goes down so that it can regenerate and your team can maintain control of a choke point without having to fall back. Well everybody, this wraps up our Grandmaster tips on playing D.Va, but we'd love to hear some of your guys' feedback. We're just getting into doing some more of this analytical style content for you guys, and I'd like to know if you like this kind of video. And if you do, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Yeah.